What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more. Shout out to the Dragon Riders. Let's get started. And shout out to the House of the Dragon. What's up, y'all? Looking at this high here to this low here, we have tipped the 382. We are moving down. It is very, very, very common to do this exact maneuver and then move on up. So we'll probably move right around to 357. With that, we will have this kind of inverse head and shoulders look, and perhaps that's exactly what it is. If it is an inverse head and shoulders, this is something that I haven't shared, but I'm going to share now. I think this would be the shoulder, right? Then we start the head. 13 days was the left shoulder. I would assume that this is the beginning of the right shoulder. It's very common for the right shoulder. This doesn't mean it has to be this way, but it is very common for the right shoulder to be smaller, just a little bit smaller than the left shoulder. So 13 days, I think not. Maybe 12 days, maybe 11 days, maybe 10 days. I don't think this week we're going to break out of it, but next week will be that time. So the rest of this week will probably be boring. We might move down today, we might move down tomorrow and find our low, and then the rest of the week we might come up, whatever, but I think next week, either in the beginning or sometime next week, that is when we will likely break out. And when we break out, the technical measure move of this pattern would be from this low to the neckline, which would be there. The measure move, very technically speaking, would actually be all the way up near that 786 at about $575. We're at $380 now. That's a $200 move from where the low would be to the high. That's nice, you guys. That's nice. Not only is that a $200 move, not only does that measure move take us above the golden ratio, it takes us above these highs, these previous areas of resistance. And when we're up here, that means we are looking now, especially if we break through the 618 on the first attempt, which this measure move would suggest we do. And it doesn't have to. We don't have to move up like this. We could move up, find resistance, come down, move up like that, like it doesn't, and that can still meet the measure move, whatever. But when we get above the 618, likely on the first attempt or second attempt, that would indicate that we see these extensions at play over the coming days, weeks, months, certainly by the end of the year. And we absolutely could see deeper extensions being hit as well. If we look at Bitcoin Cash for what it's worth, for what it's done, if we take this high here to this low, and actually I feel more comfortable taking this low and this high because this was like the spring that sprung us up. We hit the 2272 here, deep extension at the 2272. From that high there to that low there, we hit the 200 area, a deep extension as well, tipping the 1618 on the first attempt, but inevitably topping off at the 200 area. I can't help but think that we won't stop at 900. We won't stop at 1,000, but at a minimum, we'd see 1,200, potentially as high as 1,800, if not even $2,000 by the end of this next move, So somewhere in this target area, when Bitcoin Cash moves up, it likes to do it fast. It absolutely does. That does not mean from here we're going to move up fast. In fact, whenever we found our low, we crept and crawled our way up to our resistance point, right? Like right here, from this high point here. Oh, that was a glitch. I don't know what happened there. From that closing high point on a weekly basis, once we got here to this area, that's when we started to move fast. But we had to creep and crawl and fight our way up to that area, right? We're at the low points now. We're probably not just going to shoot up immediately. We could. It's possible. It is possible. But I would think, it's probably going to be sometime in August or September before we're actually above this high here. So once we see that, then we can expect to see, really once we break above 648, that's when we can look for these targets. The technical targets would be 982 to 1266, but I am looking more at 1266 to $2,300 based on what we've seen before. And that could happen by the end of this year, and if not by the end of this year, maybe the very beginning of next year. But nonetheless, of when it happens, I would expect that it happens on this next move. This was our first move, this is our second move, and our third move, I think, will be larger. And I've gone over why. I've gone over why in my last whole week's worth of videos with Bitcoin Cash, but I'll be brief. I'll be very brief in saying it right now, okay? We'll just go over it very, very quickly. This is the entirety of Bitcoin Cash's existence that we have on a historical reference basis. From a high point to a high point to a high point, we have hit this trend line for our third time. This movement that would take us up surely above this area, whether it's $800 or wherever. The minimum target was 900, I think, right? What was the minimum target before I just say things? 922. Regardless of where we go, that is going to be above this high that will break us out of this trend. Bitcoin Cash has neither been moving down nor been moving up since its existence. It's been consolidating. When we break this multi-cycle consolidation phase, as explosive as this move was, this move will absolutely be more explosive. Absolutely it will be. As far as how long it takes to get to those prices, I don't know. I might be being pessimistic at assuming 2,300. Perhaps it goes higher, but I feel like that is actually a little bit more than that's more than generous. Hold on real quick. Let's see. And then, so that's BCH, USD. Let's go to BTC. Nope, no, BCH, BTC on Binance, because that has more historical data than the Coinbase one does. We also, on the BCH, BTC chart, as bearish as this chart has been its whole existence, it's only lost value versus Bitcoin. We are in the first period of its life where we have multiple higher lows. And on this next move up with BCH moving up, I would expect we have our first higher high and higher low, our first established uptrend versus Bitcoin. That's a very big deal. Breaking out of the consolidation phase is a very big deal. And I think those two big deals in culmination together will result in a big deal of a move that will take us up higher and faster than anything we've seen so far this cycle for Bitcoin Cash. If that sounds good to you, scoop some up, man. It's at cheap prices right now. It's not the cheapest it's been, that's for sure, but hey, $380. My last purchase was at $390, so you're buying at a cheaper price than my last purchase. Don't get me wrong, my first purchase was well below those numbers. I bought over a year ago from now, and had continued to buy ever since. I even bought as high as 600, you know what I mean? Maybe it was, no, I think it was 600. I think I did put a buy order like right at 600, and I bought lower. I bought throughout this drop, but I didn't buy throughout any of this time range here. My last buy was like somewhere over here on the left shoulder. But enough about me. It's a perfect time to get in. Absolutely it is. I do think it's going to go lower, but Bitcoin Cash inevitably, I think, has a lot higher price targets to go than just $2,000. I do think that we will see prices as high as 23K, maybe higher, maybe lower, but certainly I do think we'll break 13K at a minimum. Where am I getting these numbers from? If we take the all-time high fib here to the all-time low, which also happens to just be the highest and lowest points of this whole consolidation phase, 13K to 53K are the technical targets, with a heavy emphasis, I would say, on these targets. I think 53K seems a bit out of reach. To some people, these targets seem out of reach, but they are what they are, man. Those are the minimum targets, and we are about to break the consolidation phase. We are about to break we've already broken the downtrend. We have broken the downtrend, but we're about to establish an uptrend. From a low point here to a low point there, we literally tipped this line, holding it as support. We are showing very bullish structure right now on a weekly and monthly basis. We've seen the strongest reads we've ever seen on the RSI. On a weekly read, we are seeing the strongest reads we've ever seen on the RSI. BCH USD on Coinbase also saw the strongest readings it's ever seen in the RSI this cycle. Just barely stronger than this last time, but the difference was this didn't come at the end of the cycle. This came at the beginning of the cycle, and we've seen continual reads afterwards in the same areas. Alongside of that, the most volume we've ever seen coming out of the bear cycle in this thing's history. All these things culminating together, I very strongly believe we will see these targets by the end of the cycle. But to stay more grounded, the more appropriate areas to look at, hey, even from the all-time high to low, they line up with 1,200 to 2,700 there technically, but still in that range. That's a little bit higher. I don't think that we'll see that. We could see that on this next move. It could go all the way up to its 886. And with the fact that you were here, I wouldn't think that this gives you too much trouble, the golden ratio zone. It could, but I certainly do believe that we are going to see more than $1,200 by the end of this year, and certainly by the end of this move. So that's all I got to say. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.